Hello and welcome everybody to another episode. We're back. We're not dead. We're back. Hopefully we're gonna get a couple of these still until the end of the year. We definitely still want to do like the award show. But hey, this is your average esports podcast. My name is Skim, your host as always, and as always I'm joined by Steven. How's it going, Steven?
What's up? Pretty good.
A lot has happened, so let's just jump right into it. You know, when we first put the document together for this, I had a couple of things I want to talk about. I mean, there's the Overwatch thing with the guy that got banned for boosting. But hey, his team got even screwed even more. Philadelphia Fusion can't even play. But let's talk about the account boosting first. So like you mentioned, Sato from Philadelphia Fusion has been suspended from Blizzard officially. Pretty stupid if you ask me. You'd think that a player, or that in 2017 this wouldn't happen anymore, but apparently, yeah, he was caught account boosting, or at least he was involved in it. It wasn't really that much of a detailed report by Blizzard, but of course they wouldn't really go too much in depth about it.
Yeah, I did do research on this, so I know a pretty decent amount. Basically, if you go to the competitive Overwatch subreddit, there's actually one user everybody should follow. His name's like TIS Robin, I think. He's basically the guy he lives in Korea, and he basically translates every like relevant like Overwatch thing, and they're all like super interesting because it's such a young league, or such a young game. Like basically you have like coaches who have like extreme high analytical like minds who just say whatever the fuck they want. Like they don't give a fuck about hiding the information. So you get like the most information out of that area. But one of the things he talks about in one of his posts is the reason why Koreans hate boosting so much more than the Western scene, and it's basically because it's like a gigantic business there. And Sato was actually like one of the star like boosters of his company.
Damn.
Yeah, so that's why like in the West you're like, oh, this seems reasonable. Like he got like suspended for 30. He got banned from the first like preseason, and then he got suspended for like 30 games. Whereas in like Korea, they're like, this is such fucking bullshit. Like, was Blizzard literally telling us you just need a stop story, and that's all you fucking need in order to like be a pro, even though you can't boost.
So basically, they're asking for like a more severe punishment.
Yeah, they basically want him banned permanently because this guy. There are a few cultural things, but I guess I'll explain it this way. First, I asked. I'm in like Harsha's like Discord. He's like the Overwatch content creator guy, and like I basically asked him, so how much money is there approximate that Sato made from boosting? And then like he asked Kaiser, the Korean player from C9, and basically said the top boosters, of which Sato is one of them, made approximately like $100,000.
All right.
So it's like very different from what you would imagine.
All right.
So it's like, yeah, you had desperate financial straits, but exactly why do you need $100,000? Like, there are a few like weird things going on, and then on top of that, there's obviously the idea of meritocracy going on, because obviously Korea is a very like, it's still in many ways like a Confucian culture. So like the idea of rankings and tests are very important to them. And like obviously boosting is like a form of cheating.
Right.
So they take that shit way more seriously in Korea. So
account boosting and account selling, buying has always been a very intriguing topic to me, because it's such a huge deal in like every game. I mean, obviously it differs from game to game and from country to country and from region to region, but I've always wanted to investigate the whole thing by buying an account and seeing how difficult it is, and it's actually not that difficult. I mean, I've never really done it, but I've researched a very basic amount, and it's not that difficult to buy an account or having your account boosted. And I'm not sure if you visit the Dota 2 subreddit too often, but probably once every month there's like a post complaining about some Twitch streamer who's on top of boosting the account and getting paid for it, he's streaming it as well, has like a really decent amount of viewers as well, and gets like a shit ton of money on top of it. So it is quite the business, even in the West. Yeah. I'm not sure about $100,000.
It's not that rich, but it's pretty.
Yeah.
It's pretty lucrative.
Especially for people from countries, like if you're living in Ukraine, Philippines, just selling. I've seen accounts being sold for $750. Like 7K MMR for $750. That's a lot of money. That's like over like a month's worth of salary in certain countries.
Yeah, and then there's like, it's actually a really interesting topic, particularly pertaining to Korea, because Korea has like the entire like group culture like hierarchy thing going on. So it's more of like an outlaw sort of thing. It's very morally like off kilter. So it's very complicated. Like it's a very complicated issue to break down if you're going into like an esport that has the Koreans and the Western side of it, because like they look at those kinds of things very differently. Whereas like match fixing, like both sides think it's shit.
Right.
So both sides will like bring the hammer down, but like for account boosting, it's a bit different.
That's actually a really good point. I think one of the issues here is that account boosting in itself can be, in certain cases. I mean, for example, in Dota, it is actually almost not necessarily encouraged in a way, but it is very accepted to have like a secondary account or like a third account, right? Mm-hmm. And I don't think it's ever something that Valve has explicitly been, very vocal about or, even mentioned it at all. But for pro players, it's very common to have multiple accounts. It makes it easier to scrim. It makes it easier to hide strategies or heroes that you're practicing, right? And it allows you to practice heroes in different environments as well, especially if you don't feel comfortable in certain heroes. So in that way, it feels almost encouraged for Dota players to have multiple accounts and play on different levels, because obviously you're not going to be on the same MMR on every account.
Yeah, I will say actually, I think a majority of games that have like multiple heroes should have multiple accounts, because there isn't a system that accounts for MMR for a particular hero.
Yes.
You get what I mean? Like, if you're like a flex player in Overwatch, but you wanna expand towards like maybe you want to become a Genji main, it's gonna be way easier if you have like a alt account where you only spam Genji, right?
And it's much worse in games like Dota, because in Overwatch, if you're a support, you don't have to practice Genji. When are you ever going to play Genji as a support? It's going to be impossible to play as a support, right? But in Dota, one balance patch could suddenly, support Weaver, god damn it, now we have to practice support Weaver, or carry Venge, or all these kind of things. So it's much more important in games like that. But bring up a good point, and it's actually why Valve at some point played with the idea of introducing hero MMR, so that you would have MMR based on your hero.
That would be too complicated.
It is very complicated, and I believe that it's also very bullshit. That's why they scrapped the idea. Like they actually. There was, I don't know which update it was, but they basically advertised with the, you're going to be able to see a hero's MMR, and no, they scrapped that idea very quickly.
Yeah. I don't think it would have worked.
Yeah. Anyway, that's it for the whole account selling boosting thing. But of course, it's not the only Overwatch news again. Philadelphia Fusion has been hit with another sort of tragedy. They will not be able to play the preseason because I think the official statement reads something along the lines of logistic issues, which I haven't.
Anything.
It could mean anything. I would assume it is visa related.
It's usually visa related, yeah.
Like, what other logistic issue could you have that prevents you from playing? I mean, maybe if you miss a flight, but that wouldn't be announced like days in advance. That would be more of a last minute thing. So it seems like visa related issues.
Yeah, it's almost always visa related issues, but it could just be like some kind of law or something. Like, there are way too many regional and like national laws in America, so maybe there's a specific one they're worried about. Like, it could just be that. I'm not really sure. I mean, good for them, I guess. Take the heat off a little bit, or maybe it adds the heat on. I'm not exactly sure, because was it Philly that had that really stupid YouTube video?
I believe it was Philadelphia as well. Yes.
Yeah. So basically, what we've had here is you start off paying $20 million, then you get this like the most panned YouTube video of all the Overwatch League, which is an achievement in and of itself in a way.
Yes.
If you think about it, you got Sato, who's a known booster, so all of Korea already hates you, and all of Korea is not all the Korean fans like don't want you to fail. So you've already lost like a good portion of your international audience, but maybe they don't care about that because it's the National League. But then you can't even build up the National League audience because you're not even going into the preseason. Like when I went into this Overwatch League, I was assuming Shock, which is NRG, would be like the worst of them because they've always like comprehensively across every esport they've been to failed. But Philly is giving them a run for their money.
Definitely is. Definitely is. It is. Oh god, it really sucks in a way because obviously it sucks, but for all these teams, this is pretty much like the preseason is a way of building the brand because they don't have a brand yet. Like you have a logo, you have players, but you still need to build yourself up, right? In a way, creating content surrounding the event as well, really going to be really important in sort of like ensuring that you have like a solid fan base, but. I don't know, man. It's missing like the first week of school, and everybody has made friends, and then you come along, and you just, not only do you have to sort of like learn everything that everybody else has already learned, no, you have to make new friends as well. It's
Yeah, and Philly even like overcompensated before school started too. So
you bought like the biggest backpack and like the fanciest backpack.
Yeah, shit boy. Like that. Oh god.
Alright. Yeah, that's really all I gotta say about the Overwatch League. Or Overwatch in general. I mean, it is gonna start tomorrow. I guess we could talk about that a little bit. I mean, you say finally, but at the end of the day, it's also still just a preseason,
Yeah, it's like the preseason to the preseason finally ended. Now it's to the preseason. Come on, guys. Come on.
One of the first matchups is going to be, we're going to have two sort of derbies. We're going to have LA versus SF, and then Seoul versus Shanghai. I expect going forward these are going to be sort of classic rivalries.
I don't know about Seoul and Shanghai, because like the entire thing about Chinese Overwatch is basically the best team didn't get into the game, or didn't get into the league, right? So it's like, even the Chinese, I'm not even sure how much the Chinese even want these guys to win. Like, it's like there's a certain national pride where they're like, no, fuck these guys. If they fail, maybe we'll get our good team into theirs. Like, maybe that's what they're hoping for. I'm pretty sure Dynasty will just stomp them. To be honest, that's what I'm thinking. And also, there's like 3 derbies in California for some reason. That's super weird. I mean, or 3 like teams, like 2 in LA. Like
I was just about to say, it happens when you give 2 spots to LA for some nefarious reason.
Yeah, well, basically they especially wanted to screw Noah Wiston. Like, not only will you lose your spot in League of Legends, but you will have to share your spot in LA in our game. Like, oh Jesus Christ!
Right. All right. Then actually, all right. This is not on the docket, and we didn't even discuss this. But I want to move away from Overwatch because there's something else that just piqued my eye. I piqued my interest. Because I saw it earlier, and now somebody linked this to me, so I feel like we should talk about this. Have you seen the Dream Team announcement?
What's that?
All right, I'll link it to you on Discord because if I post it on Skype, it's gonna mess up the overlay.
Okay.
All right. So, do you know how Navi split from ES Force? Which I guess we could also talk about. Okay. So obviously, Navi and ES Force had to go separate ways because they were gonna be they would have violated OSA regulations, which forbids teams from having the same owner effectively. And then instead of having let me. Before I say something wrong, let me quickly double check this. But effectively, Dream Team is another very sketchy sort of, not necessarily sketchy, but it feels like another Wesa in a way, and it feels like another ES Force in a way, and it feels like another So let me tell you who's currently part of the advisory board of Dream Team, right?
Okay.
So first of all, we have the founder, which is the former ES Force co-owner and Navi founder, the what's his name, Zero Gravity. So he's involved. Then we have ESL, of course, involved. Ralph Reichert is also part of the advisory board. We have somebody from Kingwin. It really feels like another ES Force effectively being built up. They've announced strategic partnerships with with Starletter, with ESL. So they're gonna partner with a lot of tournament organizers and teams as well. It really feels like another ES Force in a way.
Okay, so we got another one. Why not?
I mean, why not? CEOs of MLG and Keynote joined the advisory board. So, we got this going on.
Okay. Wow. Is that what this is about? Like,
I mean, if you can,
really weird.
If things can't be under one umbrella, just make two umbrellas that basically look the same.
Okay, yeah. It doesn't. Because on the website that you linked me, it basically looks like it's supposed to be some kind of scouting.
I mean,
tool,
they also have like a sort of token system. Like they're apparently going to do a little bit more than ES Force, of course, and a little bit different than ES Force. They apparently have like some sort of like cryptocurrency kind of thing going on for them as well. Let's see.
Okay.
Oh yeah, they're going to have like a leading payment solution for gamers to unlock Dream Team token.
When I made that joke about the John Wick like coins, I actually meant that to be a joke, not become reality. Like, come on, guys. Oh shit.
No, but seriously, this it feels kind of weird, this whole Dream Team thing, and so.
But I mean, maybe it's just a response to the fact that like Westa basically gave them like an year to like divest themselves of multiple team ownership, and like, oh, okay, we'll do that. Now we'll just create another monopoly over here. Like, oh,
yes,
right
yes.
on, right on.
So this is how they. You know how when the ruling came out first, the Wesa one, and I think everybody pretty much agreed that the ES Force would find some way to sort of circumvent that one rule, and basically, I mean, I think everybody knew that this was not going to change anything really. It almost feels like Wesa basically said, "Hey, you can't have two teams, but let us have a piece of the cake." Because suddenly, a lot of these Vesa people are now involved in the Dream Team thing as well, which they weren't in ES Force before.
That's pretty funny. I guess the ESF guy won in the end, right? Like, I don't really know if that's counted as winning, but hey, I mean, what else are they exactly gonna do? Like, besides, like, oh god, this fucking scene's so.
Well, I mean, we'll see how
how
this sort of develops. But again, they just announced today the whole Ralph Reichert thing, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. Yesterday, they announced the partnership with Xola, the whole payment thing. Which right now, if you want to subscribe to Twitch, for example, to like a Twitch channel, Xola is the sort of like service that handles the payment. So it's actually really a huge partnership. And again, if you go through their Twitter feed, there's like a lot of partnerships announced with like a lot of people, a lot of higher ups in a lot of big companies. Again, MLG, Kingwin, a lot of big people. Anyway, I just wanted to bring that up. A bit of a short notice kind of topic. Let's talk about. Did we have anything esports related? I don't think so. Let's head into Dota, I guess, and talk DreamLeague. DreamLeague happened last weekend. Was the second major of the season. We have Secret absolutely crushing Liquid in the finals. It wasn't even funny. It got progressively worse. The first game was kind of like really epic, really back and forth, and then
first one was really good. Second one, like, it was long, but I felt like Secret had it in the bag for a while.
Exactly, and the third was just a flat out stomp. How do you feel about Secret as a tournament winner?
I have to say you were right about Puppy, I guess. and the team in general, where basically you said, so, like Ace coming onto the team was critically important for this team to succeed because it gave them a core that had like a lot of versatility and diversity in his hero pool. And then if you give that to somebody like Puppy, like I wasn't sure if he could like use that to like outdraft people, but he has basically. Like that's basically how he's been not beat. This is not the sole reason why he's beating Liquid, but it's like one of the reasons why he's beating Liquid right now.
Right.
Is basically you got Fada, you have Mid One, and you have Ace, right? And then I'd like to point out there's this really funny sort of mirror going on with this Team Secret, and then the first version of Kuroki's Liquid, where you have the captain, you have Fada, you have two young, talented core players, you have one really great, and then you have one really great support player. Like,
no, that's actually a good point, too.
Like, obviously they play very different, but it's like, apparently that's like a winning formula.
It really is. No, I do think that at the beginning of Secret, if you look at the first tournament, which I think was Starladder, you could tell, or Starladder and PGL, by the way, you could tell that they were going a little bit overboard. They picked 17 different heroes in 18 games for Ace. They went crazy. They thought they could really pick anything for him, and it kind of worked. I mean, they got top 4 in both events, I think, or at least in one event. But I think they've dialed it down a little bit, and they've sort of like established like a very core pool of heroes. But then they still go out of the box every now and then when they know they can completely outdraft the opponent with Ace's hero. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I did think that this core trio from Secret was going to be one of the best at some point, because I think they have the ability to play almost any playstyle and any sort of dynamic that they want. You know, they can play really greedy on every player. They can also play very playmaking on space creating on every player, which I think is a huge asset. Because some people, some carries and some players, they can play one style really, really well, but then you sort of have to accommodate for any other style with other heroes and other players. They always have to sort of like sacrifice somebody in some regard, in a way where they might not feel comfortable. But with them, it feels like, you know, Fata has played anything, really. He's played everything. Yeah. He's played every position, but he's also played every style of sort of like, you know, so he's played with the very greedy ones. Exactly. Yeah. And Mid One is also a very explosive, dynamic player. We've seen him also play pretty much everything. I mean, he whipped out a Mid Kunkka out of nowhere. Nobody has played Mid Kunkka in years. The last one was literally Sing Sing.
Yeah. One Pirate Boy against Matumba Man. That's how it goes down sometimes.
No, it was really cool to see them win. I think it was I honestly didn't think they would be able to succeed this early, because I thought that maybe they would need more time to sort of adjust. But it really worked out for them. It was, I mean, you have to be really strong to crush Liquid 3-0.
Yeah. There is one caveat, I guess, I'll add to Secret, is because of the way majors work, we didn't actually get to see the two teams that did beat Secret comprehensively in the last LAN at Perfect World Masters, so we don't get to see Vici and we don't get to see LFY.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Like that's why, even though Secret win this tournament, I still have Liquid ranked above them, because against the field, I'm pretty sure no Chinese team is going to beat Liquid, whereas 2 out of the 3 top Chinese teams have beaten Secret. So, to
be fair, that was with a stand-in, with CTY as a stand-in, which definitely does change change a lot.
6-minute God, yes.
Yeah,
but change a few things.
But you do bring up a good point. With the way the major system works, we don't get to see a lot of good matchups. With this major, we've had four European teams at the top 4 or something, or like 4 Western teams at least in the top 4.
Uh-huh. Yeah,
and I wouldn't necessarily say that these are the 4 best teams in the world right now, right?
Definitely would not say that for EG.
Yeah, right. We're gonna get to EG later, but that's a really good point. Navi definitely not a top 4 team right now. Dynamic could change a lot if just, you know, more Chinese teams had been present. You can also see how the meta sort of changes for the tournament, because there's like fewer Chinese teams. Like, you'd see a lot of like, you know, Tidehunter and Death Prophet picks in the Perfect World, and then there's only Newbie at this event, so, you know, no more Death Prophet, no more Tidehunter, or at least very few Tidehunters.
Yeah. I mean, it was there, but it's like, Tidehunter is a pretty fucking good hero. I'll just say that. Pretty good hero.
Pretty good hero. Outside of that, I don't really have much else to say about this DreamLeague. I like that they favored the format over schedule. So what they did was have 2 streams running at the same time, and what they always did was basically run a series as quickly as possible. So if one series was over, they weren't going to wait until it was scheduled for 1 p.m. No, they would basically say, all right, let's go with the next series.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's hard. Besides the rise of Secret, it's hard to really say how everybody else fared. Like, for instance, this Fnatic lineup, is it good or is it bad? I can't really say. It's their first LAN, right? You run into Liquid first round, you're bound to lose that. And then they ran into Na'Vi, which is, like, if you think about Na'Vi's strengths, that's, like, their only strength, I think, is teamfight.
Teamfight, and I think Na'Vi thrive on LAN, usually. Usually Na'Vi very much overperform on LAN.
So basically you have, like... Well, I won't say this... Actually, I don't think that's a fair thing to say about this Na'Vi. Just because 3 out of the 5 players are completely different from that.
Right.
From the old ones, right? Only Nico and Dendi are left.
Well, I guess General has been around for a long time as well.
I guess General's been around, so if you want... But he's never struck me as, an Ascendant LAN player.
No, that's a good point.
Dendi has, Sonika
has, for sure, yeah.
But the other 3 are, more question marks for me, in that sense. But it's is it... But in the end, it's basically, Fnatic was not able to beat the best team, and then they ran into a team which I think might have a stylistic matchup, and this was their first LAN. Don't really know anything about that, right?
I will say... Yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I'm also disappointed a bit in Virtus Pro for losing to EG.
Yeah, but the EG is their kryptonite, really.
Yeah, but EG's always beaten.
It was just a really bad matchup for them. I think if VP faced anybody else in that in the lower bracket, they'd probably win.
Yeah.
In general, matchups in Dota is such a funny thing. Because if you just watch, for example, let me pull. Liquid versus EG, lower bracket finals. If you just watch that, you'd think that this is the first place team playing against the bottom seed or something.
Yeah. And
it's not. I mean, I will say that I don't think EG played necessarily that well this event, but they're still they still made 3rd place. They're definitely not a bad team at this event. But it just goes to show that certain matchups are just so one-sided, or they just favor one team so much that it really skews with the sort of world rankings or the placement kind of thing. That's why I think some people are also very hesitant to call Secret a definite top 2 team, because there are potentially 2 to 3 teams that could beat them in a direct matchup very consistently as well. Even you could even argue that Liquid over the stretch of multiple tournaments could beat them multiple times. I mean, they have done so in the past already. So in a sense, that's why if you look at, for example, Liquid versus Fnatic, Liquid is one of the most strategic teams, and teams that can really punish mistakes. They punish mistakes so much, and Fnatic is very prone to making smaller mistakes, especially in the early mid game. That they get crushed by Liquid, but it doesn't necessarily have to mean that Fnatic is such a bad team. Although I do think that they were really bad at this event.
They were really bad. Let's be fair, they were really bad this event. Yeah. But I mean, just on paper, it looks like a really good team, Fnatic's, just on paper. So we'll have to see how it goes going forward. And then there's other question marks you have to have here too. Secret, I remember in one of their first LANs, they basically lost to Immortals, I think.
Yes, against PGL, I think they lost against Immortals. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'd like to see them run into that style of team, see how that fares, because I don't think they ran into that kind of team at this event.
No, they really didn't. Would have been also interesting to see them play against Virtus Pro again after Hamburg, because I think Virtus Pro is also a team that can pressure Secret more so than other teams can.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, there's I even though Virtus Pro basically drop out, and before it was 6th place. Yeah, drop out in 6th place. I still consider Virtus Pro a better team than Secret.
I think that's a fair assessment, honestly. And this is why it's good that we have so many tournaments. We get more information about these kind of dynamics. Because before, if we had just one major, we would basically almost have to assign a team a better sort of position ranking. But because we have so many more tournaments, and still that Hamburg, I think, performance from Virtus.pro showed that at their best, I would also probably rank them above Secret.
But yeah, Secret's definitely on the rise, and this isn't. Obviously, this result was nothing to fuck with. Like, the fact that they are like the most successful team against Liquid is a testament to them.
Yeah. All right, Dota. We've talked about DreamLeague. Let's talk about some more Dota news. Also, something which I didn't put on the docket, but also think it happened after the docket is actually the new alliance announcement, the roster announcement.
Okay.
Actually, I think it is on the document, isn't it?
Yeah, it's on the doc.
It's on the doc. I'm blind. All right, the new alliance roster. For people that have followed Han, some of these names might sound familiar. I have not followed Han, so I can't tell you too much about their Han history, but they've also played. Some of them have played Dota 2 before, or have played Dota 2 recently, very successfully as well. So I think those aren't necessarily on completely new names. But we have Loda, Mickey, Insania, Taiga, and Boxy. Loda, of course, returning as the captain and returning as a sort of like leader. He hinted towards his own retirement, which I think is interesting. But then we have Mickey and Insania, both which have been very impressive in the sort of post-TI era, playing for Team 2Ho, I think. I think if you ask any sort of European player that has played in the Tier 2 scene for the last year, they will probably point towards these two players as to watch out. Like, if you ignore Ace. And if I had to make a list out of sort of like hot prospects to pick up, I actually did talk about Insania at some point. Not on this broadcast, but I think on Twitter or something. But these are definitely sort of really good pickups. How do you feel about the new legacy for Alliance?
I don't believe in all Swedish rosters, even though one of them is Norwegian. I don't believe in them. I do not believe in a Swedish tomorrow. Let's say that.
That's rough, but I totally get that. All right, then let's talk about.
All right, I guess I'll say this: Loda, very experienced player, used to be one of the all-time greats. He's never struck me as one of the guys who can lead a new team of young talents to greatness. Like he's never struck me as that type of player.
Fair point.
I feel like if he was that type of player, Alliance wouldn't be in such a shithole as it has been for the last few years.
No, I agree with you. I think Loda is a very different type of leader in comparison to, Kuro, Puppy. I think he has a lot to teach in terms of he has a lot of experience, and I think he can definitely help people grow as players. But I don't think he has like a sort of captain mentality where he can direct a team into a certain direction and be like, all right, we're gonna play this style of Dota, and then we're gonna this is how we win TI. I don't see Loda putting up a plan like that.
Yeah, that's like even when we go to their most successful days of No Tidehunter and Alliance. First it was Eternal Envy, and then it was S4. Sure, Loda probably had some input into all of that, but those were the two masterminds.
Right.
That's why I'm not That's why I'm not a fan of this, just because I don't really trust Loda, and he's the only leading voice on this team basically.
I wonder if and this is if you look at his statement inside the press release, he says something along the lines of, or actually let me just read it out. When I say this is the beginning of something new, it is due the simple reason that I'm slowly preparing for my retirement and building my legacy. It is important to me that Alliance Dota will live on, not in the shadow of our previous results, but with the goal to surpass them. So I wonder if his goal with this lineup is not necessarily even to win or to be successful, but to sort of build them up and have them as a sort of solid foundation, and then he's going to leave the team and find a captain to replace him effectively. Because
you can trick S4 into doing it.
Oh, I doubt that. Because I don't think S4 is necessarily. I think S4 only work with one of the reasons why he will work as a leader as a captain for Alliance back in the day is because he had somebody like Loda to sort of not necessarily back him up, but be the sort of dominating voice.
The enforcer.
Yeah, basically, because I don't think S4 has the personality. I definitely think he has the mind and the right mindset to sort of figure.
You're right about the personality thing, but all he really has to do to get these guys to follow him is like, I got a TI, and I got a shitload of majors. What do you guys have? That's right. Shut the fuck up. Like that's really what he has to do.
You say that, but he doesn't have the personality to say that. That's the first issue.
Yeah. So I guess you could like bypass that if you have like a really strong coach, because that's another way Loda could like affect that team. Keep the same role without actually playing is be the coach.
That's a really good point, and that's why I think Havorst for Navi works as a coach, because he's that type of personality as well, that can sort of, I mean, I do think that he actually does add a lot to this team without actually having to play. I don't necessarily think he's the kind of type to, when he's sitting behind Seneko while he's drafting, I don't think he's the type of guy to say, oh yeah, we could pick this and this and then we could totally outdraft him. I think he's the kind of guy to sort of like amp him up and sort of, if Seneco's not loud enough, basically he's going to be the type to be loud for him, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I don't know enough about Seneco's personality or the personality types of Navi to say anything about that, but I will say there is an element to that is important, where you have a guy who, he might not be like the tactical leader, like I'm pretty sure that's Seneko, but he might be the spiritual leader, and like that's basically been Havos for Navi for a decent amount of time, because like, yeah, Dendi is a superstar, but he does not strike me as the leadership type.
No, he really isn't. Just quickly to Sadeko. I did an interview with all of Navi. It's like a quick sort of compilation of like quick fire questions, and I asked them like, who's the funniest guy in your team, and then I would cut together all the answers. Whenever I asked some of the players, they'd be like, they would react in a normal way. They'd laugh, and then they'd think out loud, and then they say the answer. Seneka was always just one name, always. Who was? Dendi. Who was? Dendi. That's obviously I'm not gonna judge his character just based on that interaction, but I wouldn't be surprised if he was a rather sort of timid character.
We'll have to see it, right? Like the CIS is basically like a giant like Iron Curtain in some respects.
That's
like,
actually a good point.
They're thinking. Like sometimes you get more insight to the Chinese teams than you do to the CIS teams. It's kind of weird that way, but that's how it works.
Alright, Alliance roster. We have to see how this one pans out. Let's talk more roster news. Misery. Yeah. Misery stepped down from Optic.
Yeah, saw that.
And is sort of like short-term replaced by Saksa, his former teammate.
Mm-hmm.
Optic, I guess it's appropriate to put some context to this. Until Misery left, Optic has not qualified, or has only qualified for one LAN event, which... No, not necessarily one LAN, one minor. They technically qualified for two LAN events because they qualified for the Summit and for Aces RG Finals, but Aces RG Finals isn't a minor, so it doesn't really matter. Mm-hmm. Ironically, once he left, his team qualified for Galaxy Battles.
Yes, saw that.
How do you feel about Misery leaving that team?
Well, if he isn't motivated, he had to get out probably, because this isn't a team like. It's hard to say because like Misery is the leadership type, but his team already has leader in PPD, so I haven't seen enough games to say if like his individual play was up to snuff or not. But if he really wasn't motivated enough, then he probably should have gone. And you know what, Saksa is a better 4 player probably. Like there's a reason like that was the combination when they were playing. Was it Thunderbirds? I guess I'll go with that name. Thunderbirds.
Yeah, there were Thunderbirds, Planet Odd, Digital Chaos, whatever. Yeah, actually, Saksa played position 5 in that team.
Oh, is it position 5? Okay, yeah. So it's like now he's playing position 4, right? Like,
yeah, which he did before. I believe before he joined Digital Chaos or Thunderbirds or whatever, he played position 4 for another team. I don't know. Either way, he's experienced enough to.
Yeah, he's experienced enough, but
to make up for that.
It's hard to say, but I felt like they probably did need a change anyway. That Optic lineup, like it felt like they hadn't been improving, and that's not really a good sign for that team. But like I said earlier, when I said I think Optic will eventually outstrip EG and get better results for the circuit, one of the reasons was because it's a team that is it's a team with a leader who is willing to make the changes.
Right. Regarding Misery, I mean, it is worth noting that he left. PPD emphasized the fact that he chose to leave.
Yeah, he chose to leave, right?
I don't think it was a performance issue from his side. I think I wouldn't be surprised if he just wasn't on one page with how the team was going to go in terms of play style and how to approach the game. Mm-hmm. I could easily see him, and especially because the team was going to commit full time to moving to Dallas or whatever, and living or that's the idea anyway. When Optic announced being purchased by the Texas Rangers, they said that they would move pretty much every team out there at the beginning of next year, and I assume that meant also the Dota 2 team.
In that case, that makes even more sense because like these European guys, they don't really like moving to America.
He's also literally just spent a year in America with Digital Chaos.
Yeah, it's like it's too much. It's too much, right? Sometimes it's just too much.
It's not only too much. I think maybe especially because the results didn't come in, maybe you just lose a little bit of faith. And if you're not 100% sure, I can totally see you just pulling the plug and being well. It's not like I'm missing. Like it's not like he's immediately losing like all of his points or something. I mean, they haven't earned shit yet anyway, right?
And on top of that, he is a good enough player that, and if any of the better teams fuck up, in Europe, he'll be like one of the top guys to pick up.
Especially now that teams are starting to reshuffle. I mean, we just literally talk about the new Alliance roster. We're going to talk about the team disbanding. Like, there's definitely players out there that he can team up with. And maybe that motivated as well, right? Maybe another team sort of was going to form, and they asked Misery, hey. Or Misery knew about it and he wanted to join them and had more faith in them than Optic, and there's lots of factors to be considered here.
Yeah, maybe he thought he could be a much better Synderen, which he is. A much better Synderen.
Which I guess brings us to the next topic then. Mid or Feed. Yep. Mid or Feed officially disbanded. I'm surprised it took them this long, to be honest. No offense to this team, but this was probably the worst team following the... No. This was the second worst team following the TI7 reshuffle. The worst team was the team of Ira, Hansken, Jonathan Fan, and the two other Swedes that they picked up.
Oh, I see. Yes, from 2011.
Basically.
Jesus Christ.
I mean, I haven't even seen them play, like, because they don't qualify for any of the other, like, of the relevant qualifiers. Like, they don't go past the open qualifiers in a lot of cases. That's how bad they are. Mid or Feet, we at least get to see in some tournaments, or we got to see them anyway. They've disbanded, so Tomato, Weeha, Synderen, Kazu are free agents again, cancel as well. Kazu wrote a piece, or wrote something on his, what's it called, his Twitlonger, stating that he felt he basically gave up or committed more to the cause than some other players did. And... That's a big FU if I've ever seen one. Nah, it's not that bad of an FU, but
not that bad. But it's pretty. When I look at this roster, there's only like two pieces I want: Kezu and Wee. I guess if I had a roster filled with four really good players, and I mean like really fucking good players, maybe I'd get Synderen. But there's no point in that since Misery is that guy.
See, the thing is, if I had a roster of four really fucking good players and I desperately needed a captain, I would consider Synderen.
Yeah, he's like a better choice, but between Synderen and Misery, I think Misery's an even better choice than that.
Yeah, well, I mean, obviously it's a question of if the personalities mesh, but
personalities mesh, or if their way of thinking of Dota is similar or not. But yes,
that's surprisingly actually really big factor when it comes to forming teams. Whether or not you agree on how to play Dota, or like how Dota is sort of played. Because a lot of times when you see new teams being formed, for example, Fnatic, no, not Fnatic. I'm thinking of I can't think of the team right now. But a lot of times people or pro players at LAN events will just talk to one another, and they'll realize, hey, we have a really sort of synergistic ways of thinking about the game. We should really form a team, and that's why you sometimes see just like cross-region teams all of a sudden, because they literally just talked at one event or multiple events, and they realized, hey, the way we think about the game and the way we approach the game is very similar, or it even meshes really well together. We should really put this together.
Yeah, as long as they don't play the same role, like Eternal being RTC.
Yes, that is.
Then that is not gonna work.
That is a recipe for disaster.
I don't know what they were thinking.
Recipe for disaster. All right, Mid or Feet. bit of a funny thing. Tomato actually moved to Europe for this team. I'm not sure if he's gonna stay in Europe. I'm actually not sure what his visa scenario is. I wouldn't be surprised if he's here on a very bullshit visa because Midorfeet didn't have a sponsor. None of these teams, as far as I know, have any company that could provide him with a visa. So I wouldn't be surprised if he's here just on a, oh, I'm visiting friend, on a tourist visa. Which I guess is sort of okay. I mean, it's sort of fine because Midorfeet actually hasn't won any prize money. So there's no. He technically is a tourist.
It's like he just showed up to play some Dota. That's it.
Yeah. I wonder if he's going to stay in Europe because options in South America currently are pretty bleak.
I mean, I don't know how good his options are in Europe either.
I don't know. Maybe with the new Misery team.
Like, would Misery even want him?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Would Kezu even want him? Like, I don't actually know how. Like, he's talking about work ethic, but he didn't name a guy.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was Tomato. Because there were rumors about Tomato in South America already, and not necessarily having work ethic issues, but personality issues.
Yeah. So I was like, it doesn't really seem to fit. Like, okay, you can't go back to SA because they're basically that the two best teams are basically been locked down, and you can't stay in Europe because your one chance to show you were good failed.
Yeah, right? Maybe it's time to shine in NA again. I mean, this is not on the docket, but we're going to talk about this. Digital Chaos. I guess actually let's talk about this now. Digital Chaos disbanded. Mason apparently said this on stream, and I mean this has been rumored for quite some time now, or sort of been unofficial for quite some time now. Digital Chaos disbanding. Pretty much the same as Midorfeet in a sense. I mean, they haven't achieved jack shit either.
Yeah.
In fact, I think they have like a Cloud9 syndrome in all these online qualifiers. I think they came in second like a bunch of times.
Yeah.
Let me check. No, not even second. It's more like third and fourth. Okay. Yeah, they basically never qualified for anything.
Yeah, that's even worse then.
And they got invited to like a Chinese LAN event, China Top, and they placed fourth. Which, by the way, this tournament only featured 4 teams.
Okay, that's pretty bad. I mean, if you look at the lineup, like the only guy I think is good is MSS. Like in terms of skill, I think Demon is actually a decent captain. I think Bulba's a great mind. Koifa is average. For me.
I think Koifa is heavily overrated, and I say that as a German.
Yeah, like I think he's just average. Like he's okay, but he's not like there are so many other people I'd rather pick over Koifa, basically. And
yes.
Basically, the only time I've ever seen Mason be good was under that one run under PPD. Like,
sounds about right.
Yeah. So basically, even if like Tomato came, like you only have like 3 good pieces. I think you could take MSS, Demon, and Tomato maybe. And I don't even think Tomato's that great. Like I guess you could take Bulba, but I'd rather have him as a coach than a player. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No. I mean we've talked about this before, right? That
Bulba should quit his career as a player and then become a legendary coach.
Not necessarily should, but
he could
do that, and I think he has his strength in areas that are just as suited as a coach, right? Like his sort of like mind and analytical thinking. Being able to break down the game, potentially even sort of be a secondary leader. I think you can do all of that as a coach as well. But for now, it hasn't really worked out as a player. I think actually, if you look at his personal results on Wikipedia, that actually looks really grim. It's so sad because
some kind of weird Chinese meme. Like there's a funny Chinese meme about Bobo. Like this guy's like literally living a blessed life because no matter how bad he does, he keeps getting on the good teams. Which is kind of cruel, but it's like there's a grain of truth in there. Like,
hey, when at TI I interviewed Mason, I asked him, "Hey, Mason, at TI before joining Digital Chaos, you had like this really insightful NA Dota forum post, where he basically said, hey, how does Bulba keep getting onto the teams? And sometimes you just need to look at the results. I mean, if it happens once, okay, but it's consistently. And again, I say this not. I really like Bulba, not to flame him, but he's not had any good results since TI3 effectively. His biggest result was literally as a coach for EG.
Like, his best time as a player was still under Liquid, basically. Like, come on, man. That was like 5 years ago or some shit. Like,
almost was, yes.
like,
I don't know. This is this Digital Chaos hasn't worked out. I wonder if they're gonna put.
So what did Mason say to that? Say to that anyway.
Oh, he. It was the most backpedaling I've seen in my whole life. He was, oh yeah, you know, sometimes you just post stuff on the NA Dota, you know, it's just a forum kind of thing, and basically he tried to play it off as it was just you know, we just like throwing shit at one another, you know. It's
you know, it's like, yeah, I mean, I didn't say all of his results are trash. I mean, they are trash, but that doesn't mean he doesn't, like, come on. Okay.
And, I mean, one thing he did say though is what, you know, obviously he wouldn't be joining a team with Boba if he didn't believe him in him as a player, which I think makes sense, right? If you I don't think you necessarily join a team with a player that you don't believe in. Like, otherwise it'd just be a waste of time. So,
I mean, I don't believe in Boba as a player, but I do believe in him as a mind. You get what I mean? So
yeah, no, that's...
even if I think he would fuck up, I think he'd give enough to the team to get a spot, especially on one of these lower teams, which is a bit different from saying I believe in him as a player.
That's a good point.
Like, because he is one of the great Dota minds. Like, there's no, like, question about that. It's just like he can't put it into the server. He cannot put it into the server.
Unfortunately. All right, Digital Chaos.
You know what's the ultimate? What's the ultimate, like, trash team that should be formed?
What?
A Synderen and Bulba stack. That's right.
Oof.
So much knowledge, but so bad. I'd love to see what would happen with that.
We'll probably implode or something. The Digital Chaos disbandment is very curious because EG supposedly, and this is, I guess, the next topic, EG supposedly also going to make a roster change. And, I mean, there is... I mean, that's at least what Mason said on stream, and that's something I've actually been told even during Hamburg. When they got eliminated, they had, like, a really important emergency meeting after they got eliminated. That's why they couldn't do their signing session on site, because they literally were sitting in a hotel room for a couple of hours. And EG supposedly making a roster change. If you had to make a roster change, who would you remove from the team?
Let me check.
If you're that team's coach right now, who do you kick?
I mean, there's an obvious answer, but nobody's gonna like it.
Is it Crit?
Oh no, it's my answer is this: kick Arteezy, move Fear to 1, get PPD.
Oh right. I mean, yeah.
But I mean, let's be real here. Clearly, Sumail and PPD are not going to work together.
No.
So the other answer, is like, fuck it. You know what? We should have gone with the PPD route. Kick Sumail.
And move Arteezy to 2.
Move Arteezy to mid. Move Fear to 1, and then bring back PPD. Like, all my answers are back to PPD because I think that's their biggest weakness is like their leadership and their drafts are not nearly as strong as they were under PPD. And you know the entire thing, like whenever PPD talks about like his drafting prowess, he's always like, no man, I'm not really that good. Think about it. All these players have all this gigantic hero pool. Anybody could do what I do. Well, basically, we've had like 1.5 years of EG without you.
To prove
their drafts have not been ascendant like they were under you.
See?
Just pointing that out.
This is why, I mean, I think we've both agreed that, you know, PPD taking a year off was essentially also a good way of sort of basically giving EG the finger and saying, hey, I don't have to tell you that you need me. I'm going to show you that you need me. Because without me, you're not going to be successful. And it kind of worked.
Really successful for a little bit until TI, and then they realized, oh shit, PPD was the entire clutch factor apparently. Like,
yeah.
How the fuck does that happen though? That's so weird. Like, yeah, PPD is like incredible captain, but the fact that they all crumbled like that was fucking crazy. Like, but yeah, basically, they really need PPD. That's my answer. But for a realistic answer, I think you have to kick one of Crit or Fear.
Effectively, yeah. I agree. Yeah. Because I think I mean, I don't think anybody's going to question the the skill that both Arteezy and Sumail have, and then Universe on top, of course, right? I don't think anybody's ever going to question that. And I don't think you're ever going to kick either of these three players unless they don't get along with one another. So I think the one way to only really help this team is going to be by, improving in the support/captain position, which obviously kicking either could work in that regard, because whoever you get, they can basically fill that captain role, and then the other one is just going to be co-captain. So I wouldn't be surprised if maybe even, Misery. I mean, Misery, he was rumored...
Misery is a great choice.
He was rumored to join EG post TI7, but then he apparently chose to join PPD instead.
See, Misery understood. Misery understood, but now he's going to try... Now he's going to try to fix his roster. Actually, I think... the first lineup I basically said kick Arteezy, move Fear to 1.
Right.
If you're going to bring in Misery, I'd say do the same thing.
Could work, but again, I don't think they're going to kick Arteezy at all. I just don't.
Obviously, they're not going to, but I think Fear. I think you can only have one of Arteezy or one of Sumail. Both of them together, it works great if they both. It works great for a little bit, but basically they end up reverting to the PPD formula every single time anyway.
Yeah. No, they definitely do, and actually, I'm not sure if I talked to you about this or if I just posted it on Twitter, but I did a little small draft analysis on EG post Hamburg, because I thought their Hamburg performance was so awful, but then their DreamLeague qualifier performance was such a turnaround that I did a draft analysis on it. And effectively, what they did was, in Hamburg, and even before Hamburg, they would play a sort of style where they would have both Arteezy and Sumail as the carries, and then you have Universe as sort of Space Maker. What they did afterwards was, hey, how about this? We're gonna sacrifice our carry, and we're gonna give Sumail and Universe 1v1s. How about that? And have them basically do really well in the early game, and then have Arteezy on a carry that can just come back by flash farming a tiny gyrocopter. Oh wait, that worked? Huh. Interesting.
It's almost like PPD was right.
I wonder if it came up with this idea, huh?
What a genius idea! That's actually why. Even though Arteezy is a good player, I actually think he's wasted on EG. Basically, that's my problem with this lineup.
I agree.
Because their best formula is a PPD formula, and that PPD formula, even he tried it, he couldn't make Arteezy Sumail work. Why would these guys be able to do it?
I will say that about EG. I think right now is the one meta where I think this should work all the time. This whole, we sack Arteezy and then we just gonna give Universe and Sumail favorable lanes, because the offlane sort of reverted back to the phase, to the old offlane where Universe was basically the best offlane in the world. You don't have to have these high impact early game playmakers anymore. You can be fine having your Tide Hunters, your Voids, your Omni Knights, those sort of tanky, just getting a little bit of experience farm, but not necessarily having or needing a lot of farm either. Type heroes.
I mean, Universe did need more farm. There's a reason PPD went 6, but
right, just in general. So I don't know. It feels like this technically should be the meta, and I think this is also why they did well at this event. But it feels like they're not 100% committed to the idea just yet. I mean, they still went back and gave Arteezy an anti-mage. I don't think that would have ever happened under PPD. I don't think he ever anti-maged under PPD in an elimination match. But it happened.
What I'm saying, man. Come on. What did it? Basically, their best idea so far has been to do what PPD did. That's not.
What would PPD do? They should just tattoo that on their arm or something. Whenever they're about to draft something really badly, they just see it on their arm and be like, "Oh, would PPD really do this?"
Yeah, basically the problem with Arteezy is he's basically requisite to. The problem with Arteezy is. Actually, I will say this: Fear hasn't played one in a long time, so maybe it wouldn't work. But Fear at his best was as good as Arteezy is in this particular role, basically, because Arteezy's not. This isn't Arteezy's best role. Basically, as a sacrificial carry. This is a guy you want to carry the game. Whereas Fear is a guy who could deal with that fine, and he'd be good. He wouldn't complain or anything. But
right.
Obviously, they're not going to do that.
No, I look towards Arteezy, and I feel like they should play him, or I think he would thrive more in a position where basically Secret is running ace right now. Very flex, sort of like carry, where you can very dynamic. Both, I mean, sometimes Secret do sacrifice and like sack ace, but sometimes they also just build the lineup around him. It'll be very flexible because TZ has that diverse hero pool where he can do that.
But like they don't have a leader to do that.
They don't have a leader, and B, I don't think they're off. I don't want to necessarily point Universe out as a sort of.
Oh yeah, it's true. Universe isn't a fodder.
He's not a fodder, and that's why you can't really be that dynamic in your lineups and your playstyles, because I think Universe thrives in these sort of ways where he can be like those sort of like utility team fight cores, those tanky Tidehunter, Void, Enigma, those sort of heroes that do well economically, 1v1 especially, that don't need to create a lot of space, they don't need to set the tempo, but then when they team up, they basically do those like crazy plays. They, I don't know, be sort of like a frontline tank.
Yeah,
and
Universe is kind of like. All right, so basically, I never bought into the idea that Universe was ever the best offlaner in the world, but I did believe he was the best offlaner of his style.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Which is a different kind of thing. And the fact is, like, even though I talk about like Sumail and Arteezy as if you need to build the team around them, you also need to build it around the Universe.
Definitely.
And that's like the problem. There's basically like 3 guys you have to build this team around, and there's like not enough room. Basically, like it's still surprising. It's a little bit surprising to me that they did so well last year, even though like obviously it wasn't as good as, I don't think it was as good as the previous years for a few reasons, but that's up to opinion. But especially at TI, that definitely like fucked up. But basically, there's like way too much resource heavy players here, and there's not like the balance of the resources. There's just not enough in the game.
Yeah, and as for the results last year, I don't want to take anything away from them, but or from Crit as a captain, but I think a lot of the reason, or a big reason for why they also did really well, is just because their individual players just popped off a lot of times.
Yeah, like Sumail was basically like, he was a better player than Miracle for the entire year up till TI.
Yeah, Sumail, even Zai as a support was Zai was phenomenal.
Really good, yeah, so there's it was basically an all-star team, even though obviously Crit wasn't an all-star, but during that year. But you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, that's why I don't know. I think it's not as easy as just going back to the PPD routes, because otherwise I feel like if it was
you would just get PPD.
I mean, or I mean, I'm sure that they've thought about it as well. How to do that, this and that. But I definitely think their best results have been when they've done a very classic sort of, we sack our carry and we give our 1v1s, or Universe and Sumail the 1v1s. That's whenever I look at really strong performances from them, that's usually how they've approached the game. And I don't know. Say
there's this weird thing about this particular meta, where like it's 1-3-1 all the time.
Yes, that's also a very good point. That's actually something that I wanted to come back to later. It's sort of at DreamLeague, it's sort of been established the whole, or even Perfect World, the whole like. We give the safe and the offlane, the 1v1s, and just have like the supports double roam effectively.
Mm-hmm.
It's, I don't know.
But in that meta, in that case, they have the wrong. Fear's not like, he's not a guy I consider a great roaming support.
I don't think so either.
So it's like if you're really playing towards the meta, then Fear's the one to kick. But I don't think they should be playing towards the meta. They should be playing towards the style, which is enabling one of Universe and then either one of Sumail or one of Arteezy. Like,
right.
One, basically, they have to choose. I think they have to choose eventually, and they still don't want to choose.
And by the way, sacking Sumail is also a very valid option.
He's a great like comeback player, isn't he?
Yeah.
Like,
I mean, I mean, DAC, wasn't that like his most famous game effectively on the Storm, where he could win 0-5 and then he still crushed them?
Yeah, basically, like he's really great at that, so it makes even more sense.
Yeah.
Right, but like, yeah, it's really this team is like really close to an answer, but
yeah, it feels like they're just one step away from it. Yeah.
The ultimate answer is still PPD, and they don't want to do that one. Like,
one last thing I gotta say about EG is that Crit he wasn't really talked about too much at this event, but he was actually really strong on his forward position. His Earth Spirit in that was it against Navi, was it?
Yeah.
No, against I don't know who it was against, but he was so insane. He hit everything. No, it was against Virtus Pro, right? Yeah. He set everything up. The fact that a puck was never able to sort of do puck things. As a puck, you usually just jump in, you create a lot of confusion. You're very annoying, difficult to kill. But Crit was so important with every stun, every silence. It was insane.
All right. What was it? All right, when OG and Liquid first rose up, 2 years ago, I think.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jerax was the best support player in the world, but the second closest to him was actually Crit.
Yeah, I agree.
He was really fucking good, and then that's another reason why I hated this new EG rosters because they basically wasted Crit in the 5 rule.
Yes, that was very annoying.
It even made sense because Zai obviously can't play the 5. But it's like, Jesus Christ, you're wasting everybody's time here because he's such a good player on the 4. But I'm that is something that they do have going for them is the fact that I do think Crit can play really, really explosively at that role. But the problem is Fear is not that good.
You know how do you follow football at all, like soccer?
A little bit. I know a bit about it.
So in football and soccer, you can basically buy as many players as you want, effectively, as long as you don't violate a certain financial limit, or a financial rule. But effectively, this means that a lot of times you see teams just playing stop player after stop player because they want to create revenue by having these big names in their team. They want to create attention. So Manchester City, which is one of those teams that is financially backed by some sort of Saudi Arabian rich dude effectively. Yeah. So they have a shit ton of money. They spend a shit ton of money. So what they did one year was they basically buy 4 forwards, even though you could play 2 at most in a solid lineup. So what they did was sometimes they just put all 4 in one team in one lineup, and they would have them play as aggressive midfielders. But that wouldn't make any sense because it just didn't play to their strengths, but because they had those names, so we have 4 of the best forwards in the game. Let's just field all of them at the same time, and that's what when EG acquired Crit and Zai, that was what that felt like. Oh yeah, you have you have some of the best players in the world, but do they really mesh together?
It's the problem with that is basically you bought Crit, but you're not really buying Crit. Or you're not really using Crit.
Exactly.
That was my biggest problem with that, and now that you get that Crit, you now have a Fear who isn't nearly as good.
And in general, you just don't have a lot of good shot calling in this team. I don't think. And I think that's obviously hindsight 2020, but I feel like this was sort of also. I think we actually. Speculated this as well. How good can Fear as a captain really be? Because he was already that coach. How much change can he bring from coach to captain?
All right. So basically, Thorn has this term. It's called royalty, where basically if a player becomes legendary enough, nobody will ever criticize him, and they'll always big him up, right? Neo in CS:GO obviously is one of those. Fear is a big one in Dota because he's old man Fear, right? But all throughout EG, even though PPD was this all-time great captain, everybody's oh, but you guys don't understand, man. Fear, he's the second leader. Without PPD, without Fear, how could PPD do what he does? And I was yeah, Fear probably has a very important role in controlling the egos of this team because I feel like that was one of the more important roles. But the tactics, the leadership, the iron will, all this shit, that was all PPD. And we saw him as a coach. He wasn't helping the draft very much, and now we've seen him here. He, as a shot caller, he isn't much better than Crit. Actually, I think he might be even worse than Crit.
That's a fair point. I definitely don't have. I definitely haven't seen enough from this team to really call him a definitely better captain than Crit. And even in the past, before pre PPD, we've seen EG struggle with Fear as a captain, right?
Yeah. Basically all of NA Dota had problems with so many different things before PPD showed up. So it was that's always why I give PPD the highest plaudits of any NA Dota player, even though there's there are a lot of better players. Nobody else could have like formed such a fucking strong team in Dota besides him, basically.
That's a very good point. All right. Plenty of EG talk. Wonder if there's anything else Dota related that we haven't talked about. I feel like there should be one.
Macau, I guess.
All right, Macau. Right, the minor coming up. It's a minor, and it feels kind of underwhelming after having this sort of like field that we've seen at DreamLeague. You know, we've seen Liquid versus Secret. We've seen Virtus. Actually, Virtus Pro versus Navi could happen again. But then in Macau we have eHome, which, by the way, the eHome invite was absolutely bullshit. This is something. Oh, this is something. Totally this is something I haven't talked about on this show yet, so I'm going to talk about this now. MDL Macau. All right. Goddamn MDL, right? They have this qualifier for this event, the Chinese qualifier. Every minor needs to have a qualifier for every region. MDL Macau thought they were really smart by turning the DPL league, which is effectively a league that they and Perfect World run, and together with Ace as well. Basically have that as the qualifier for it, which pretty much has the best Chinese teams anyway. eHome were banned from the season of DPL. Because they, the whole Ace thing, and earlier this year with the Wings players, or the X-Wings players. And what Valve goes out and says, well, eHome was banned from this qualifier. Alright, let's invite them directly, because obviously banning a team from a qualifier totally violates our rules. Which, as an isolated incident, is a fair point. But then you have to consider that every event can run a closed minor qualifier. So technically speaking, you could ban eHome from your qualifier and just not say it. You could just be like, well, we just invited who we thought were the best teams. What is it? Captain's Draft Minor in January. They held the close qualifiers. This is one point of criticism, which I think is not that big of a deal. Not that big of a deal. The bigger deal is Keen Gaming. Keen Gaming used to be eHome Keen, so basically a part of eHome. They also got banned from DPL after the whole Wings incident, even though they had nothing to do with it, but just because they were part of the organization. They split from eHome, they kept being banned, or they remained banned, and they couldn't play the qualifier. Where's their direct invite, I ask you? Where is their direct invite?
Listen, you gotta understand Valve. Valve is like a flat structure. So basically what happened was, like a fan of Wings from last year is like, oh, whatever happened to that Wings team? And like, oh, they split up. And then they got banned from China. Like, what the fuck? That ain't right. We gotta get them into a tournament. And they got them in tournament. And then they just closed the window. It was like, I did my job. Everything is good. And then they completely ignored the King thing. That's literally what I think happened.
You know what's the funny thing about this, actually? Is that, technically speaking, they could have invited them, because now this tournament has 9 teams. They could have made it a 10-team event if they had just invited Keen.
And Keen's actually really interesting.
It's not even that bad of a team. They qualified for the Hamburg Major.
Yeah, and they were surprisingly good for a new team, right?
Yeah.
Like I would have been totally down for a 10-team tournament, especially for like a small minor. But it's like, Valve, like I said, flat structure, so that lazy bastard's like, oh, I did my work.
Absolutely bullshit. This also, by the way, screws really with the scheduling from MDL, because what their format is a best of one, like a 9-team best of one round robin, and now they have games running from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. and they have scheduled them really tightly, so they have 1 hour and 15 minutes per game. That is very unlikely to work. Exactly, especially even if the game lasted 1 hour, you're never going to set up and take down like 50 minutes for like the news team to set up.
There's no way. Like I think they have to do a triple stream, to be honest.
They're doing double stream. I
think they should have done a triple stream.
Oh.
But yeah, like there's obviously a problem there. I will say actually there's some weird. There's a bunch of Chinese teams here, actually, that you don't usually see though.
I mean, yeah, eHome is
LGD, LFY, eHome. Like, all 3 of them are not typical Chinese teams.
I guess technically speaking, LGD were of course at the Perfect World Minor, but they got eliminated very quickly.
Ages ago. esports terms.
And they were really trash as well. VGJ Storm is going to be an interesting one because we haven't really seen too much of them. Which is, of course, it's not necessarily. I mean, it's not a Chinese team, but they're like the sort of like a new brand.
They're lower tier NA team.
Right. EHOM, of course, is interesting because we haven't seen them at all, and finally we get to see CTY in an environment that I guess he knows, but at the same time, it's still CTY.
I mean, the real question we have to ask is, what is Innocence going to do with this fucking team? Like,
really fucking good question.
Like that's like CTY is cool and all, but like, what the fuck is he going to do exactly? Because this is the mind that brought us Wings. Like, yeah, it took him like a year and a half to do it, but he did bring us Wings eventually.
Alright, just to quickly run through this tournament: Virtus Pro, LGD, EHOM, LFY, TNC, VGJ Storm, Infamous, OG, and Navi. VGJ Storm were the stand-in, KP instead of Ritsu, which is funny because I was waiting to see Ritsu on LAN. KP, though, used to play carry for, was it MVP Phoenix? It's one of the MVPs.
A million years ago.
Yeah. And then we have Virtus Pro also using a stand-in. Solo is not going to play. Instead, it's going to be Oddstyle because Solo is just going to take the year off. It doesn't really matter anyway because if you win one major, you're so good to go with your points already. It's stupid. So even if they do concede the penalty, it doesn't really matter too much for them.
Yeah. And they're probably just thinking, "Oh, Oddstyle, you want to beat up your own team? Fuck yeah, let's go!" And then that's why he's here.
Quick prediction on the winner, or maybe the top two, I guess. Let's just take top four since all four get points.
Top four, okay. I'll take LFY, VP. Oh my god, the rest of these teams are so iffy.
What makes it really difficult is because I think a lot of these teams have like a spread from they could be last or first.
Yeah.
Like LGD, I could totally see grabbing first place, but I could also see them just drop out last again.
I guess I'll take TNC and LGD. I guess I'll take those four.
Yeah, sounds about right. I definitely would have gone with Virtus Pro, LGD, and TNC as well. LGD, I'm not sure, man. The way they played Perfect World was so bad.
It was so bad, bro. It was so long ago.
It was technically so long ago, yeah.
I'm still gonna need to kick them out for that.
I'm still gonna go with Navi over them because Navi.
Navi's been pretty good recently, but it's like
they're not only good recently. I think that Chinese teams traditionally do really badly against CIS teams, really, really, really badly.
Okay,
that's why whenever even Empire goes to China, even back then Power Rangers, when they went to China, Power Rangers Hellraisers, they did really well as well. Just because the Chinese teams, they just do really badly. They just can't deal with the tempo for the CIS teams.
Yeah, like I was thinking of Navi, but I was like, do I really want to believe in Navi? No, I don't. Even though it's a completely new team, I still don't want to believe. So
actually, you know what? We can actually make a fairly not necessarily accurate prediction, but because we know that everybody's going to play everyone for a top 4 place, and we could technically, Navi. I think they can beat LGD and LF. I think actually Navi can beat pretty much everybody here in a best of 1. Yeah. And the thing is, I see LGD losing to everybody here in a best of 1. I legitimately can see them lose to
Infamous.
To a bunch
of these teams,
yeah.
It's a coin toss, but so is every other team here. OG hasn't been impressive. Nobody knows a shit about EHOM.
EHOM.
I can't bet on VGJ. That's a fucking new LAN team.
And they have to replace their carry as well. To be fair, KP is a really good player, but
listen, I actually think KP is better than Ritsu because I know KP won't leak the scrims. Now, on to the next question. Infamous is really iffy too. There's so many iffy ones. It's so hard. This one's actually really tossed up in the air. I have no clue what the fuck's gonna happen.
All right, that is a good way to end it. I kind of have to wrap it up soon, so let's quickly hop onto CS:GO and just talk about the EPL finals because that is pretty much the last point on the docket anyway.
Yeah.
This is EPL finals. All right. This is obviously going on currently, so we already have a bunch of results that we can talk about. FaZe lost earlier to Fnatic, which I thought was interesting.
Yeah. Actually,
give me a top 4 in this event.
FaZe, North, SK, Astralis.
All right.
Yeah, I'll just go with the four safest. I think those are the four safest.
Despite Astralis having a stand-in?
Yeah, I think Astralis is a bit. All right, here's the thing about stand-ins is, yeah, they have much less time to practice, but at the same time, you can't scout them.
That's a really good point. Yeah.
And in a game like CS, it's more about tendencies and how a player plays, and like the style of the team. Like that's what's going to give you the edge. And nobody really knows that shit about Astralis because they just went from stand-in to stand-in, so they don't really know how Astralis is going to play. So there's like, you can get a temporary boost that way. It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes the stand-in is like, even if it's like stand-in is a good player, like it completely like just implodes the team. But Astralis have basically proven like at least a 4-man core as a unit can work really well together. And Rubino is like a pretty solid player, or he was when he was on North, so I'll go with him. And like the only other team you could pick out as an easy top 4 pick might be NIP. But I'm not like everybody else. I still don't believe in NIP. Like, basically, NIP's rise is predicated on the rise of both Force and Get Right. And Force is going to drop off eventually. I don't know when. I think it'll be soon. Get Right, you can believe more in just because I know he has like insane work ethic. Exist, I don't believe in. Draken is like he can only hit crazy shots. He can't hit regular shots. So
that was when they won Oakland, that was one of the things that really, really, really bugged me whenever I watched Draken play. You know, like some of the really easy shots he would just not hit, but then I have to flick from like one end of the monitor to the other one in like 0.5 seconds. Oh, sure, I'll do that.
I'll do a 1082 double scope, no scope. Like, oh shit, Draken's so good. And then like a guy casually walks in his crosshair and misses. Like, oh, good job, Draken. Yeah. So yeah, like I'm very iffy on Draken in general. I think he's gonna be like he adds a certain level of chaos to the team, but not enough for me to like put them over the top. And then Rez, yeah, he was really fucking great at one event.
So basically, you're telling me the player you believe most in is Rez and that team right now?
Yeah, and Rez himself is not. He's a rookie, and he is not Hobbit.
Right.
So I don't believe he's gonna keep doing that shit. Like when Hobbit rose up the first time around, right? Like there was every CS player goes to this point where they have a drop off after their first great event, because at that point every team and every player starts respecting you, and then they start scouting you, and then you start doing really bad. And basically that's what I thought was gonna happen to Hobbit, but that shit never happened because he's really fucking amazing. I don't think Rez is that good. Like, sure, his stealing is amazing, but I don't think he's a Hobbit. So I think he's gonna go down at this event like he did at the last one.
All right.
So basically, it's very iffy for me. That's why I went the other 4.
Give me one black horse. Like if you have to pick one team that could
not out of those 5, right?
Not out of those 5, yeah. That could potentially upset this whole like top 4. I mean, not necessarily win, but top 4.
Top 4. I think. I would say Fnatic, except I'm looking at the results and they lost to Hellraisers, so I really don't believe in Fnatic. I guess between among the rest of them, I'll give you Liquid. I think even though Zeus is the coach and he's like a stand-in, like the rest of the team should have enough firepower that they can maybe upset one of the other teams and get to a semifinal place, especially if they get like. Actually, no, they can't get the first spot anymore, so that's out. But like, I think they're most likely because even though Hellraisers has like a good score, I don't see them beating both Astralis and FaZe.
How do you feel about Optic?
Optic don't have a leader. Basically, like they have Freiburg, but he's not a leader, and basically, I think the team has like serious issues with roles. Like for some reason Ollie was one of their more consistent players on LAN, and then they took the op from him to give it to Mixwell. And like basically they don't really have an idea of how they want to play the game, so I really don't believe in them. Like it's fine and all if you get like a bunch of good fraggers, but if you look at FaZe before Kerrigan joined up, they had an year of like mediocre results, and then when Kerrigan joined, took them 3 days to get them their best result of the year. Like Optic don't have that kind of leader. So, to like melt it all together, and they've been together for a decent amount of time where something should have clicked and it hasn't yet. So I don't believe in them.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, Stephen. I'm gonna call it. Thank you for joining me. It was a lot of fun. Thank you guys for listening, for tuning in. We're gonna hopefully, we're gonna definitely gonna do at least one more in this year still. Ideally, a couple more. Although there's not that many big tournaments coming along, but I do want to do at least sort of one 2017 in review kind of podcast episode where we just look back and talk about the whole year. And obviously the awards, maybe in one maybe we'll do that in one showing and talk about the awards and then about the year in general. All right, thanks for tuning in. Follow us on social media. Twitter links, handles are below, and yeah, that's it from me.
All right.
All right, bye.
Bye.